So I saw one of the strangest things in the world today. And this is, again, I'm just stumbling across this stuff. It was in a video, and then there was some banter comments between a couple people. And the main argument I want to talk about here that was in a lot of those comments was these were Orthodox or Hasidic Jews arguing against, I guess, evangelicals or something like that, claiming that Christians are anti-Zionists and that Christians hate the Torah, don't like Moses, things like this. And while most Christians don't practice the Torah, I'm not going to say all, because there's Seventh-day Adventists that recognize the Sabbath, and you have Messianic Jews, and you have just a different spectrum of it. The Orthodox don't like the modern state of Israel at all, but they still believe that the books of the Old Testament, and even Maccabees and stuff like that, the poems of people who don't know wisdom of Ben Sirach, Book of Barak, we recognize all these as infallible. Now, I have intellectual differences, but as a statement of the belief of the church on whole, I mean, I would have the aberrant views, or what's called the scholarly view of it, which sometimes isn't. Well, we'll get into that later. But this idea that the Christians, I mean, this is actually in the heads of these people, and it's kind of strange that here in America, especially the evangelicals, are basically the cheerleaders of Israel. They fund Israel. Now, I am strange in being a Christian, and being an American Christian, and being opposed to the state of Israel. Most evangelicals are pro-Israel, pro-Zionist, and many of them believe that the Jews don't need to be saved, that they're already God's chosen people, and that the rest of the world comes through to God through Jesus. Now, not all of them, but even the ones that would say the Jews need salvation are still adamantly pro-Israel. And to have this kind of weird paranoid belief everybody's against this, because that's kind of what it is. Because I mean, it's very strange. In the kind of sporadic comments that were left, they seem to side a lot with the Muslims, as if they're the brothers in arms with the Muslims. But if you look at the Christian populations of Europe, even the Dark Ages and Middle Ages and stuff like that, there were always populations of Jews there. I mean, yeah, there were some expulsions and things like that, but Jews had lived in Europe quite comfortably up until World War II. Then it got bad, and now it's safe for them again. But recently, with the incursion of Islam, it's become dangerous, especially in Sweden and places like that. It's funny to look how the Jews are treated among the Muslim countries, even today, and how they are on the quote-unquote Christian. And it seems to almost be some type of denial, like that I mean, I do understand they have problems in the Orthodox countries, believe me. The Orthodox have historically not been kind to the Jews. But I think if you compare that with the treatment in Muslim lands, and talking about in the world today, I think it's a very strange view to think that the Christians are the enemies of the Jews. I mean, and they use this slam like missionary, like it's a backhanded. It's kind of funny because that's the way I feel about missionaries. But I mean, it's a this Jewish view of, and I'm not saying all Jews by any means. Pretty much every single other Jew I've ever talked to has been fine with Christianity, understands it, understands that most Christians don't think that the Jews killed Jesus. They think the sin of the world, he took it on voluntarily. I mean, that's the whole message of Christianity. If you think the Jews killed Jesus against his will, I mean, that's kind of undercuts. It's very strange. It seems like they believe in myth. They rely on myth and gossip to get their information on Christians. And they were asked, do you ever read the New Testament? They said, we would never read it. It's heretical writing. Oh, then how can you have an opinion on it? Again, strange people.